Have you ever had trouble seeing your target through the mirage and wondered, I wonder if one of those aperture reducers would help? I'm going to show you what it looks like through the scope when you put one on. Let's go take a look. Here we have my normal F-class setup. I put my trigger cam on, and what I've done, in fact I'll unscrew it here, is I have a device called the Mirage Buster, and it's going to let us actually go through a wider range of closing up the apertures than we would normally have with just a fixed aperture reducer. Like my March actually comes with a fixed one, so does Vortex and some other companies, and there are people who make aftermarket reducers. This one happens to be almost like a camera lens. You can actually adjust the iris on it from almost completely closed to wide open. And I thought this would be a really great video. It was a suggestion from one of my members over on Patreon, and I agreed with him. I thought it would be great to see if you can actually see through the trigger cam what it looks like as you reduce your aperture, so that you know what to expect if you're at a match or you're out hunting or doing something where the mirage is just really making it tough to see your target or to get a really fine hold. So let's take a look. This is going to thread onto the end of my scope, and then it's got magnets that are going to attach, and then we can actually go from, like I said, all the way open to almost closed. So let me get it on here. We're going to get the trigger cam set up, and then we're going to run it through its paces, and you can see what it looks like. All right, so I have the system set up here, and if you're looking right now, you will see some mirage, and it's flickering, and it's not a horribly bad day for mirage, so I'll admit this probably isn't the best example right now. But if you watch as I turn this, you'll notice how the lines start to clear up. Now, yes, it's getting darker because obviously we're closing up that iris, but now if you look, you will see that the lines have sort of stopped their flickering. They've sort of become more static. And then if I open this back up, you'll see how they're flickering again. And that simple example is enough to show you that the aperture reducer is doing something. Now, if I take this out of focus even more, and we start getting a little fuzzier there, like you see, and then I start to close up that aperture, see how those lines, again, they just sort of snap into a more static form, which is all that we're looking for, because ultimately, especially at 1,000 yards, you kind of get this big bouncing blob in the middle and everything's shaking. And you just want to try to settle that down, mainly so that your point of aim is consistent. Because if it's bouncing, well, you don't know if you're aiming when it's bouncing at the top or the bottom, and there's all different techniques you can use, and there are some that are pretty effective. But ultimately, settling that bouncing blob down is the most effective thing to do. Now, that can be done by dialing the scope back. So if I go ahead and open this up, and you'll see that it's shaky, and then I start to come back on my power, right? You can see how the lines get better. Okay, so dialing back is one technique that I've seen people use over the years, and it's a fine technique as long as you still have a good point of aim. But me personally, I would like to be able to zoom in, and you can see here what it looks like. And as I turn this, you will see that even though it gets a little darker, the lines start to settle down. So bigger white lines, a little bit more bounce in the middle. I start to turn it, smaller white dot in the middle. The lines on the white lines get a little thinner. And the fact that it's darker typically doesn't make too much difference because we are shooting in the middle of the day. Even in the morning, it's pretty rare. Like in the morning, you're not really going to have mirage, so it's not really an issue. But I just thought this would be a really good, quick, effective video to show you what happens as you are putting on an aperture reducer versus not having an aperture reducer. So with that, I hope that helps. You guys have a good one. Get out and shoot. We'll talk later.